Moving on with commas, we have rule number 8. We use a comma to avoid confusion. Very simple, very easily put. The comma is, to the English language, what some people use. The ninjas toss around ninja stars. We seem to throw commas in sentences and think that they're going to be A-OK, and sometimes they're not. So a very simple rule: you use a comma to avoid confusion, and that means we probably have to reread our sentences once or twice to make sure there's no confusion. So the 4 examples we have on the board, we'll insert commas in these sentences to number 1, identify the confusion. Well, that would be the first thing we do. And then number 2, put a comma in to show how the meaning changes and how the flow of the sentence changes because of the comma. So the first example says, "On the riverboats drifted lazily with the current." So if we read it in that statement, it looks like we have riverboats drifting lazily, which isn't the intent of the author. What was drifting lazily? Boats were. So we should have a comma after river. On the river, comma, boats drifted lazily with the current. So the confusion becomes, if we don't have a comma there, we have river boats instead of just boats. The river is where the boats are actually floating or drifting. The second example, inside everything was a mess. Inside everything was a mess. Again, reading it in this context, what was everything? What is everything? Inside everything was a mess. So again, inserting a comma, there's 2 ways to look at this sentence. We could put a comma after everything. Inside everything, comma, was a mess. But we cannot do that because it separates our subject from our verb, which makes it even more complicated. But we don't want to create a comma splice, so we cannot put a comma after everything. Again, because we don't want to separate our subject and our verb. So we have to put a comma after inside. Inside everything was a mess. Now, of course, the author would have helped us out immensely if they would have said inside the house. Inside the house, comma, everything was a mess. But they just said inside. So we have to put a comma. It kind of goes back to the introductory elements with prepositional phrases. Inside is a preposition, but there's no phrase that goes with it here. So again, to avoid confusion, we need that comma. The third example, soon after we left the observatory. Soon after we left the observatory. Again, where do we place this comma, and how do we know? Our subject is we and our verb is left, so we know they have to go together. We can't separate them by a comma. The flow of the sentence, we have to put a comma after. Soon after we left the observatory. All right, again, more information would be helpful. Soon after eating. Again, after is one of those prepositions. We could have even left it out, but obviously it's adding detail. Soon after dinner, we left the observatory. But again, that comma needs to go after to eliminate confusion. So as a writer, as you write your sentences, you should probably be double checking them, reading them once, reading them twice. Just writing it and moving on sometimes leads to this confusion. And the last example, if you want to join us next time. Almost sounds like a question. If you want to join us next time. But it's not really a question. Again, looking at it, if you want to join us next time, it's kind of, we kind of have dual statements here. If you want to, comma, join us next time. All right, and then what is the subject of join? It's you. They are separated, but it goes back to what kind of statement it is. It's an imperative statement. So that comma has to be in there to avoid the confusion in the sentence. If you want to, join us next time. All right? So, again, rule number 8, use a comma to avoid confusion. Confusion to whom? The writer, the reader, the speaker. But you, the writer, know where that comma should go and how it should be used. And in these sentences here, we've given examples, 4 very good examples of how do we eliminate confusion and how can confusion be created by not adding commas or putting commas in the wrong spot. So rule number 8, use a comma to avoid confusion. Hope you loved it. Enjoy Best of luck on the next activity.